The fork is halfway to my mouth when Daniel says, "You need to tell my mother why you withheld her rent." Around us, Sunday dinner keeps making small noises, silverware on rental china, the hum of the model apartment's refrigerator, Evelyn folding and refolding her napkin. Tessa Ward, the property manager, is seated across from me. Her leasing assistant is at the end of the table. Daniel looks at them, then back at me. "And you need to apologize. To Mom and to the property staff. You made everyone chase money you promised to pay." "I didn't withhold anything." I put down my fork. Every payment cleared. Tessa's eyebrows draw together. "Let me check the account." She turns her laptop toward herself and signs in. Daniel lunges across the corner of the table. "Wait, this doesn't need to become..." He tries to shut the screen. Tessa jerks it beyond his reach. A pale green record fills the display. 6 months paid, 1 reversal pending, requested by Daniel Bennett. Refund destination, account ending 4409. My husband's hand remains suspended above the keyboard. The worst part is not that he lied. It is how prepared he looks to explain why the lie was my fault. Evelyn breaks the silence first. "What does that mean?" Her voice has lost the wounded softness she used when I arrived. For the first 20 minutes of dinner, she had spoken like a person conserving strength after a terrible illness. She had let Daniel pull out her chair. She had touched 2 fingers to her temple when Tessa asked whether she wanted iced tea. She had even taken 1 brave bite of pot roast before saying she simply couldn't enjoy food while her housing was uncertain. Now she sits straight. Tessa clicks once. A refund was requested 3 weeks ago for the prepaid balance. It hasn't been issued yet because the original payment method and requested destination don't match. Daniel eases back into his chair. "That's what I was trying to handle privately." "With whom?" I ask. He gives me the look he uses when I have violated some rule he invented only after I broke it. "Claire." "No, I'd love the answer," Tessa says. Her assistant, a broad man named Luis, suddenly becomes fascinated by the dinner roll in his hand. Daniel presses his palms to the table. "Mom's rent is too high. I asked what our options were if she moved." "You asked for the remaining rent back," Tessa says. "You didn't ask about options." It was an online form. It included a comment box. Evelyn turns toward him. "Moved where?" He doesn't answer quickly enough. My skin goes cold beneath my sweater. 3 weeks earlier, Daniel had asked how long it would take me to turn my home office back into a guest room. He said Evelyn's cousin might visit in the fall. I had told him the cousin could use a hotel, and Daniel had laughed as if I had missed a joke. "Daniel," I say, "moved where?" He reaches for his water. "Can we not do this in front of strangers?" "You invited the strangers," I remind him. "You said the property manager needed to hear me apologize." Tessa closes the laptop, though not before I see a note beneath the request. "Do not contact original payer. Please communicate through authorized family representative." Authorized family representative. For 6 years, that had meant me. I had found Marigold Court after Evelyn's surgery because Daniel said looking at apartments made him feel like he was shopping for where to put his mother. I toured 5 buildings on my lunch hours. I compared elevator widths, grocery delivery policies, lease break fees, and whether the bathrooms had enough space for the temporary bench she hated. I negotiated the move-in date and hired the movers. When Evelyn rejected the first 3 sets of curtains because they made the living room look institutional, I returned them. Daniel had brought 1 lamp and accepted praise for making the place feel like home. Now he rubbed the side of his thumb against his wedding band and said, "There's context." Evelyn gave a dry little laugh. Context is what people say when the first explanation won't survive. It was almost funny coming from her. Tessa pushed back from the table. "I'm going to print the activity record. Ms. Bennett, since the payments originated from an account with your name, I'll need you to confirm whether you authorized the request." I didn't. Daniel's head snapped toward me. "You don't know what I was going to do." "That's true." He flinched, perhaps because I said it quietly. Tessa stood. "Luis, would you come with me?" Luis put down the roll with visible relief. When the property staff left, the model apartment seemed to change around us. The framed photographs on the walls showed smiling people who had never lived there. 3 pairs sat in a white bowl, hard and polished and fake. The dining table was long enough for 6, but nobody had thought to remove the price card from beneath the centerpiece. Evelyn stared at Daniel. "Were you planning to put me somewhere cheaper?" "I was planning to discuss choices." "With Claire? With both of you?" "You started by accusing me," I said, "because you cut me out." "Of what?" "The rent, the decisions. Everything goes through you. You asked me to handle it. I asked you to help. There it was, the trapdoor built into every favor. If the result pleased him, we had done it. If the work became inconvenient, I had taken over." Evelyn reached for her wine, then remembered she had declined wine on account of her nerves. She picked up the iced tea instead. I was told the payment had stopped. "By whom?" I asked, though I already knew. She drank. Daniel leaned toward me. "Mom received a notice." Tessa emailed about a pending account change. "That isn't a missed rent notice." She was terrified. "She called you?" "I'm her son. And then you brought her here and accused me in front of the staff. I wanted accountability." The word landed with such clean absurdity that I almost admired it. Evelyn set down the glass. "Please don't turn this into one of your courtroom conversations, Claire. I'm an operations manager. You know what I mean. The questions where every answer is wrong. Only one answer is wrong. Daniel requested the refund and told you I stopped paying." Daniel looked toward the hall where Tessa had disappeared. "I never said you stopped paying." Evelyn's face changed by half an inch. I caught it. "What exactly did he say?" She smoothed her napkin on her lap. "He said you had concerns about continuing the arrangement." "I said we had concerns," Daniel cut in. "No," Evelyn said. "You said Claire had frozen the rent until we could discuss a sustainable solution." I looked at him. He lifted both hands, which is essentially true. My money paid her rent through November. Our money. The payment came from my income. That's not how marriage works. Apparently, marriage worked differently when he submitted a refund to an account I didn't recognize. Tessa returned with 3 pages. She did not sit down. "The request is suspended," she said. "Nothing will be refunded until we verify instructions with the original payer. The lease remains active, and there is no balance due." Evelyn released a breath and placed her hand against her chest. Daniel's shoulders loosened, too. It was subtle, but I saw it. The emergency he had used to drag me here was over, which meant he expected the evening to slide toward forgiveness. He would apologize for the confusion in the car. He would say his mother was under stress. He would remind me we were a team. Tessa handed me the papers. The first page showed my 6 payments. The second showed Daniel being added as an authorized contact 11 days later. The third was the refund request. "Can I have a copy?" he asked. "You can access your submission through the portal," she said. "I'm asking for that copy. And I'm giving this copy to the person whose funds you requested." A pulse worked in his jaw. Tessa looked at me. "You're welcome to use my office if you'd like to call your bank." "Thank you." Daniel stood. "We're going home." It sounded less like an invitation than a correction. I folded the pages once and put them in my purse. "I drove myself." "I know that." "Then why did you say we?" Evelyn made an impatient sound. "Must every sentence be examined?" "Usually, no. Usually, I let half of them pass unchallenged so we could get through dinner." I picked up my coat from the back of the chair. Daniel watched me put it on. "What about Mom?" he asked. Evelyn's apartment was 1 floor above us. "What about her?" "She's upset. She just learned her rent is paid and her home is secure." "That isn't what I mean." "I know." Outside, the rain had stopped, leaving the parking lot black and reflective. Daniel followed me under the covered walkway. "Claire." I kept walking. "You're making this look worse than it is." I turned so quickly he nearly walked into me. Through the leasing office windows, I could see Evelyn still at the table, speaking to Tessa. Her gestures were crisp now, no fingers at her temple, no brave little bites. "What account ends in 4409? I asked. Daniel glanced toward the window. "A personal account." "You have a personal account?" "So do you." "I have the account I had before we married. You know the balance, and it's linked on our financial sheet. I don't need permission to open a checking account. You needed my permission to redirect my payment into it. It wasn't going to stay there." "Where was it going?" He pushed his wet hair back. At 43, Daniel still had the face of a man people trusted with directions. Open, pleasant, slightly concerned on their behalf. It had served him well in sales, and even better in our marriage. I was exploring a short-term investment. I laughed once. I couldn't help it. His face hardened. "That reaction is why I didn't tell you." Of course. My future response had traveled backward through time and forced his secrecy. "How much?" "I didn't receive anything." "How much did you request?" "You saw the form. I saw that you tried to close it. Because Tessa was violating my privacy. You brought me there to confess to something you did. I brought you because Mom believed the rent was in danger, and you wouldn't discuss her living situation. That doesn't connect. It does if you stop interrogating every word and listen to what I'm saying." A car rolled slowly through the lot, tires whispering over wet pavement. I waited until it passed. "Say it then." He exhaled. "Mom shouldn't be paying Marigold prices when we have an unused bedroom." "My office is not unused. You work at the dining table half the time, because your mother spent a month sleeping in my office after her surgery." And it worked. It had worked because I woke at 5 to finish reports before Evelyn called down for coffee. It had worked because I moved client files into sealed bins after she read a page on my desk and asked whether Marisol was always that emotional in writing. It had worked because Daniel left for work each morning while I arranged medications, rides, meals, clean sheets, follow-up appointments, and the quiet disposal of every food Evelyn decided was inflammatory after reading about it online. "She has an apartment," I said. "She's lonely. She hosts bridge on Thursdays. That's not family. No, family gets a key." He stared at me. There are silences that confirm more than answers. That one had teeth. 3 months earlier, I had come home from a work trip and found 12 women in my kitchen drinking citrus punch from my good glasses. Evelyn had used her emergency key because Daniel was stuck in traffic and she didn't want her luncheon delayed. She had moved the smoked glass bowl from the entry table to make room for gift bags. It was the first thing I noticed when everyone left, the pale circle in the dust where the bowl belonged. I told Daniel the emergency key had to be returned. He agreed. He even drove to Marigold Court and came home swinging it around one finger before dropping it into the bowl with a bright little chime. "Done," he had said. Now in the wet parking lot, I asked, "Does she still have a key to our house?" "No." The answer came too fast. "Did you make another copy?" "This is exactly why we can't talk. You decide I'm guilty, then build a maze around me." That was a yes or no question. He looked back toward the model apartment. "I'm not discussing keys in a parking lot." He walked away before I could point out that he had chosen the parking lot. At home, the smoked glass bowl sat where it always did on the narrow table by the door. Daniel's car key lay inside beside the brass key to Evelyn's storage unit. The small silver house key he had theatrically retrieved from her was gone. I stood with my own key pinched between two fingers. The bowl had a smoky gray spiral through its center. When we bought it during our first weekend in the house, Daniel said it looked like a storm trapped safely under glass. For years, the sound of our keys landing together had told me that both of us were home. I put my key in my pocket. In the kitchen, I opened the household spreadsheet on my laptop. Daniel called spreadsheets my emotional support grids, usually with enough affection to make the insult pass as a joke. I checked the emergency account first. The balance was lower by $18,000. The transfer had gone out that morning. Destination 4409. I heard Daniel's car turn into the driveway. For a moment, I stared at the number and felt the old reflex rise. Calculate the damage, move money from savings, prevent a late payment, protect the house, ask questions after everything was safe. Instead, I opened a new browser window. I changed the deposit instructions for my salary. Then I removed the automatic transfer that covered Evelyn's monthly expenses beyond rent. The next payment was due in 12 days. Daniel's key struck the glass bowl in the entryway. "Claire," he called, as if he had come home expecting to find his wife exactly where he had left her. I closed the laptop and listened to him walk toward the kitchen. He stopped in the kitchen doorway and took in my closed laptop, my purse on the counter, the glass of water I hadn't touched. I was hoping we could reset. "What happened to $18,000? His expression barely moved, but his hand tightened around his phone. I said, "It left the emergency account this morning. It went to 4409. Okay. I was going to tell you. When? Tonight. Before or after I apologized for withholding your mother's rent." He set his phone beside the fruit bowl. "I said I handled that badly." "You haven't said that." "I'm saying it now." "You're saying you said it." Daniel pulled out a chair and sat, signaling that we were about to have one of our reasonable conversations. His voice would stay level. Mine eventually wouldn't. Then the story would become my tone. "The money is a bridge," he said. "It's temporary." "To what?" "A business." I waited. He rubbed both hands over his face. Gather and Grain. The name meant something only because I had seen it on canvas bags in the garage. Gather and Grain supplied mismatched chairs, farmhouse tables, linen runners, arches, lanterns, and other objects designed to make expensive events look charmingly improvised. Daniel had told me the owner was a sales client. "You invested in them." "I'm a partner." "How long?" 11 months. I laughed again, and he pointed at me as though I had produced evidence for the defense. You do that. "I'm sorry. Would you prefer I take a quiet moment to appreciate my husband owning part of a business for almost a year without mentioning it?" "I didn't own enough to make it relevant. But now you do? Now I have an opportunity to increase my stake. The failing business needs $18,000. It isn't failing. Then why does it need our emergency fund?" "Inventory timing. Summer events pay out after delivery, but we have to buy ahead." "What did you buy?" "Tables." "How many?" He looked offended by the question. "I don't have the invoice in front of me. You moved $18,000 this morning, but you don't know how many tables you bought. There are also chairs." I stared at him. He stood so abruptly the chair legs scraped the floor. "This is why I couldn't bring you in early. Every idea has to survive a deposition." "I'm asking where our money is." "Our money?" "You keep saying that, then acting like I stole yours. You secretly transferred it into your secret account for your secret business." I made a marital financial decision. A marital decision requires both people in the marriage. Not every single one. $18,000 counts as one. He walked to the sink, although there were no dishes in it. The window over the sink reflected his face back at me, softened by the dark yard. "The refund would have replaced most of it," he said. There it was. "You took the emergency fund because you thought you could fill it with Evelyn's rent, with excess prepaid rent. Her lease runs through November. She wasn't going to need it, because you were moving her into my office, our guest room. You told her?" I mentioned the possibility. "You told me her cousin was visiting." I was trying to start the conversation without you immediately shutting it down. You started a different conversation. I was feeling out your reaction. To a fictional house guest, he turned. "Do you hear yourself? Everything has to be precise with you. Every word has to match a receipt." Today, that seems like a useful flaw. He opened his mouth, closed it, and picked up his phone. "Show me the Gather and Grain account," I said. "I don't have access on my phone." Show me the transfer into 4409. You already saw it. The account after the transfer. That's my personal banking. And the 18,000? His face settled. I'm not handing you my phone while you're like this. There was something almost restful about the moment. Not pleasant, just clean. For weeks, maybe months, I had been trying to solve a problem he wouldn't admit existed. Now the problem sat in front of me asking for privacy. I changed my salary deposit, I said. He blinked. What? My next paycheck will go into my individual account. I left enough in checking to cover my half of the house expenses. Your half? Yes. You don't get to financially punish me because you're angry. I'm not paying to be lied about in public. That's dramatic. I'm also ending the monthly transfer for your mother's groceries, cleaning service, and incidentals. Her rent is paid through November. You can handle everything else. He stared as if I had slapped Evelyn in the model apartment. You can't just pull support without warning. I'm warning you 12 days before the next transfer. She depends on that money. Then you should return the $18,000. It isn't liquid. You said it was temporary. All investments are temporary if you define the term broadly enough. Despite myself, I smiled. He almost smiled back. That was one of the dangerous things about us. Even at the edge of something ugly, we could still recognize each other's timing. Then he said, "You love this." The smile disappeared. You love being the person with the passwords and the spreadsheets. Everyone has to come to you. Mom needs groceries. I need the tax folder. The insurance company needs a date from 6 years ago. You make yourself indispensable, and then you resent us for depending on you. For one breath, it hurt because there was truth near it. Not in the accusation exactly, but close enough to cast a shadow. I had volunteered for things because I liked them done right. Sometimes I corrected Daniel before he finished trying. Sometimes relief on other people's faces felt uncomfortably like love. But he had taken that tender, embarrassing truth and used it as a curtain in front of 18,000 missing dollars. I'm making myself dispensable, I said. You should be relieved. I took my laptop upstairs. The next morning, Marisol found me in the conference room with 3 bank statements spread around a stale blueberry muffin. She ran our client division with the temperament of a friendly customs officer. Nothing entered or left without documentation, but she could make you laugh while she confiscated it. You're here early, she said. So are you. Yes, but my house is peaceful and mine is a personality defect. She looked at the statements. Is this work or the kind of personal crisis that becomes work because you brought a highlighter? Daniel moved $18,000. Her face changed. I told her enough to make the numbers make sense. I left out the moment his hand hung over Tessa's keyboard. I wasn't ready to hear how it sounded from outside my marriage. Marisol sat across from me. Do you need somewhere to stay? No. Do you need me to ask again in a less casual voice? I'm not leaving my house. Fine. Do you need me to hide a body? Whose? Good. You're still evaluating. That's healthier than certainty. I pushed the untouched muffin toward her. She pushed it back. Have you called the bank? She asked. I'm on the emergency account. The transfer was authorized by an owner, so they won't reverse it. Not without Daniel. And Daniel would like me to stop making every word match a receipt. Marisol leaned back. That sounds exhausting for a man transferring money. At 10, I called a locksmith. I didn't lock Daniel out. I changed the front and side door cylinders, paid from my individual account, and put his new key in a sealed envelope with his name on it. The locksmith, a woman named B, with purple-framed glasses, made me test every lock twice. Copies? She asked. 2 keys total. She held up the tag attached to mine. This code makes more. Keep it somewhere private. When Daniel came home, the envelope was on the entry table beside the smoked glass bowl. He picked it up. What is this? Your key. He tore the paper and looked from the key to the front door. You changed the locks? Yes. On my house, our house, you still have access. You're insane. Maybe, Don't copy it for your mother." He dropped the key into the bowl. The sound was sharper than usual. "My mother has never harmed you." She entered our home without permission. She hosted lunch. She went through my office. She moved a stack of papers. She discussed one with me later. Daniel's eyes shifted. He had never known that part. What paper? A client complaint. She probably saw it by accident. She quoted it. He pressed his lips together. I said, "If you give her a key again, I will leave." "So now you're threatening me." "I'm telling you what I will do." "Same thing." "No. A threat is meant to control your choice. You can give her a key. I can choose not to live in a house she can enter whenever she wants." He shook his head slowly. "Marisol teach you that line?" The accuracy of the guess irritated me more than it should have. "I learned it from the last key." He walked upstairs without answering. That evening, I went to Marigold Court carrying a folder with Evelyn's account information, delivery schedules, and the number for the cleaning service. She opened her apartment door wearing a silk blouse and lipstick, fully recovered from Sunday dinner. "I wondered how long you'd wait," she said. "I was at work. I don't mean today." Her apartment smelled like lemon polish and the rosemary crackers she kept in a glass jar but claimed she rarely ate. The curtains I had returned twice hung at the windows, casting pale blue bars across the carpet. I put the folder on her table. "What's that?" "Everything I manage for you. Daniel will take over next month." She did not touch it. "Did he ask you to do this?" "No. So you're using me to punish him." "I'm no longer paying your additional expenses." Her mouth tightened. "Because I believed my son. Because he used the work and money I provide to make me look cruel, and you helped him do it. I didn't know about the refund. You knew I had supposedly frozen your rent, and you didn't call me. Daniel said you refused to discuss it. My number didn't change. He's my son." "I know. You have no idea what that means." She looked toward the blue curtains, gathering herself. When she spoke again, her voice was lower. "He said the arrangement had become a burden to you. I wasn't going to beg. So you agreed to dinner where he made me apologize. I agreed to let the truth come out." It did. That landed. Evelyn's fingers twitched against the back of a chair. She walked to the window. "He mentioned the guest suite. My office? He said you barely use it. I used it this morning. He said I could contribute. I'm not looking to be kept." "You are kept, Evelyn, mostly by me." She turned, color climbing her neck. I hated the sentence as soon as I said it, not because it was false, because it was the kind of truth meant to reduce someone. I softened my voice. "Your rent is covered. You have time to make another plan. I'll help transfer the accounts, but I'm not running them. And if Daniel asks me to stay at the house? That's between you and Daniel." She studied me. "Is it? If he gives you a key, I leave." Something moved across her face, not surprise, but calculation followed by hurt that I had noticed it. "You'd end your marriage over a key?" "No, I'd leave because of what the key means. To you." "Yes," I said. "That's how boundaries work." She opened the apartment door. I left the folder on the table. For 3 days, Daniel became considerate. He made coffee before I came downstairs. He texted when he would be late. On Thursday night, he cooked salmon and did not mention that I had canceled Evelyn's transfer. He asked about a difficult client by name and listened to my answer. It was almost enough to make me doubt the shape of the danger. On Friday, Marisol and I drove 2 hours to inspect a hotel renovation. The contractor discovered water damage behind a ballroom wall, turning a short visit into an entire day of photographs, estimates, and nervous calls. At 6:30, Marisol offered me her guest room. "I'm going home," I said. "You say that like you're proving something." "Maybe I am." Rain followed me for half the drive. By the time I pulled into our driveway, every downstairs light was on. The front door opened before I reached it. Evelyn stood in the entryway holding a dish towel. "Oh," she said, "you're back." Behind her were 2 suitcases, her blue overnight case and a cardboard box marked "Kitchen Fragile." Daniel appeared from the hallway. "Before you react," he said, "Mom's staying temporarily. Evelyn had changed into slippers. Something simmered on my stove." I looked down at the smoked glass bowl. Beside Daniel's key lay a fresh silver copy. For a few seconds, none of us moved. The sauce on the stove bubbled over. Evelyn turned automatically, hurried into the kitchen, and lifted the pan off the burner. The domestic ease of it was worse than the suitcases. Daniel lowered his voice. "She didn't feel comfortable at Marigold after what happened." "What happened to her?" "Claire," Evelyn called from the kitchen. "I am standing right here." "I know, you're standing in my house with a key I told Daniel not to give you. His house, too," she said. Daniel stepped closer. "We weren't going to leave her there after you withdrew support. Her rent is paid." "This isn't only about rent." "It was on Sunday." He looked exhausted, which was impressive considering I had been the one working since 7 that morning. "Can we talk upstairs?" he asked. "No." "Then stop performing for Mom." Evelyn returned with the stained dish towel bundled in her hands. I did not ask him to choose between us. "You used the key. The door was locked." "That's generally when keys become relevant." "Enough," Daniel said. That word used to stop me, not because he frightened me, but because I believed there was virtue in being the first person to lower her voice. I walked past them and went upstairs. Daniel followed. "What are you doing?" Exactly what I said. I took my overnight bag from the closet and put it on the bed. Underwear, socks, 2 sweaters, work clothes. I added toiletries, my medication, and the charger Daniel was always borrowing. From the office, I took my laptop dock, the client files Evelyn had once read, and the folder from Sunday dinner. Daniel stood in the bedroom doorway. "You're leaving your own home to make a point." "I already made the point. You made the choice." "She needs somewhere to stay." "She has an apartment. She feels unwelcome there." "Tessa stopped you from taking her rent. That isn't hostility." "She feels embarrassed. I was the one you accused, and you were proven right. Congratulations." I stopped folding a shirt. He heard it after he said it. His mouth changed, but he did not apologize. "You think that's what I wanted?" I asked. "I think being right matters more to you than being married." I zipped the bag. Downstairs, Evelyn had lined her shoes neatly beneath the entry table. Her blue overnight case sat beside the suitcases, its brass buckles polished. She watched me carry my things toward the door. "You don't have to go," she said. "Yes, I do." "I can return to Marigold in the morning." Daniel looked at her. "No, you can't." She looked back at him, and I saw the instant she let his certainty replace her own. I opened the door. The new key was still in my hand. I slipped it into my coat pocket without putting it in the smoked glass bowl. "Claire," Daniel said, "if you walk out, don't pretend this is something I did to you." I looked at Evelyn's fresh silver copy. "I won't have to." Marisol opened her door wearing plaid pajama pants and holding a wooden spoon. She took one look at my bags. "The body option remains available, but there's a fee after 9. I started laughing on her front step. It came out wrong and folded into a sound I couldn't control. She put the spoon on a side table and pulled me inside. Her guest room was painted a calm green that made me want to throw something. I sat on the edge of the bed while she brought me tea and did not ask for details until I could speak without shaking. When I finished, she said, "How did he get a new key?" "He copied his." I thought there were only 2. There were. "You kept the code." "Yes." She considered that. Then either the locksmith didn't require it, or he had a copy made from the key itself. "Apparently. Do you want advice or witness protection?" "Sleep." "Excellent. I'm qualified for one of those." In the morning, Daniel had sent 6 messages. The first said we needed to talk when I was calmer. The second said Evelyn had cried after I left. The third listed the utilities due that month. The fourth asked whether I intended to meet my obligations. The fifth said leaving without discussion could be considered abandonment. The sixth was a photograph of the salmon Evelyn had cooked, portioned into a glass container. Your dinner is in the fridge if you decide to come home. I stared at the photograph longer than the others. Marisol set coffee beside me. That must be some salmon. He knows food means normal. He also knows refrigerators preserve it. I put down the phone. At 9, I called each utility company and asked that my contact information remain attached to the accounts. The electricity and water were current. The mortgage payment was scheduled. The homeowner's insurance was not. The automatic payment had been canceled the previous afternoon. I called Daniel. He answered on the second ring. "Are you ready to talk?" "Why did you cancel the insurance payment?" A pause. "I'm reorganizing the household expenses. It's due Monday." "You said you were only paying your half." "Half of an insurance lapse is still an insurance lapse. You can't demand financial separation and then criticize how I manage my side. Are you paying it? I'll handle it." That isn't an answer. Now you know how it feels. The line went dead. I logged into our joint checking account. My password no longer worked. I tried the recovery link and received a notice that online access was temporarily restricted, while the bank reviewed a reported security concern. The bank representative confirmed I was still an owner, but said I would need to visit a branch with identification to restore access. She could not explain who had reported the concern. At lunch, I drove to the bank. The remaining balance was less than $200. Daniel had moved everything else to 4409. I sat across from a young account manager who wore a tie printed with tiny sailboats. He explained my options gently, as though I had come in after a death. I restored my access, left the account open for incoming household bills, and transferred in exactly half of the insurance premium. Then I paid that half directly and emailed Daniel the receipt and remaining balance due. His reply came 3 minutes later. "So this is what 20 years together means to you. Receipts." We had been married 12. I typed that, then deleted it. By Monday, Evelyn began texting. "The grocery delivery has been canceled. Do you know the password for the pharmacy portal? The cleaners say there is an overdue invoice." I forwarded each message to Daniel and copied her. I did not answer the questions. On Tuesday, she called. "Your little system isn't helping anyone," she said. "I gave you the folder. Daniel left it at Marigold. Then it's in your apartment. I am not there. You can go get it. He has meetings all day. Then you can go without him." Silence. I pictured the fresh key in the glass bowl and understood. "Do you still have your Marigold key?" I asked. "Tessa requested it." "Why?" "Daniel told her I was vacating. Did you sign a lease termination?" "He said he handled it." "Evelyn, did you sign anything?" "No." "Then you still live there." Her annoyance sharpened into uncertainty. "Daniel said the refund can't be processed unless I surrender possession." "The refund is suspended. He told me they approved it." "When?" "Yesterday." I opened my email while holding the phone. There was no message from Tessa. "Don't give anyone your key," I said. "Call Tessa directly. You told me you were done managing this." "I am. That's why you need to call her. You're enjoying making us struggle." The accusation was familiar enough to feel inherited. "I'm at work, Evelyn." "So is Daniel." "I know." I ended the call. 5 minutes later, she sent me a single sentence. "Tessa says there is no approved refund." I did not reply. That afternoon, Tessa called me. "Daniel submitted a complaint against our office," she said. "He claims we mishandled an authorized move-out request and disclosed private financial information." "To me?" "Yes." "The person who paid?" "Yes." She sounded tired rather than worried. "I'm sorry he's dragging you into this. He brought us in at dinner. We're already in it." Tessa explained that because the payment originated from my account, Marigold's regional office needed a written statement confirming I had not authorized the refund. She could provide the correspondence tied to the request. An hour later, 6 emails arrived. Daniel had started cautiously. He asked whether prepaid rent could be returned if a resident moved in with family. Then he asked whether a refund could go to a different account because the original account was being restructured. When Tessa said the payer would need to authorize that change, he replied that I was unavailable due to work and he was empowered to act for our household. The last message had been sent 2 days before Sunday dinner. Please do not contact my wife at this stage. She has become emotional about the family transition and may interfere before I can explain the practical benefits. I read that sentence until the words lost shape. Marisol appeared beside my desk with 2 vending machine coffees. Which one of us needs the terrible coffee? I turned the screen toward her. She read silently, then pulled up a chair. He wrote that before he accused you. Yes. So dinner wasn't panic. No, it was rehearsal. That evening, Evelyn called again. Her voice was different. I went back to the apartment. All right. The folder was there. Daniel had taken the page with the rent information. I can email you another copy. I found something else. Behind her, I heard the hollow sound of an apartment with open closets. A Gather and Grain invoice, she said. It was in the box he left by the door, past due, $37,000. I closed my eyes. He told me it was an investment, I said. He told me he was helping a client. Both can be lies. He said the refund was for a deposit on a less expensive place. He said you knew. I didn't. She breathed into the phone. I believed the part I wanted, she said. It was the closest Evelyn had ever come to apologizing without creating an exit for herself. Are you staying at Marigold tonight? I asked. No, my things are at the house. Your lease is active. That isn't what I said. I understood. Returning would mean admitting she had moved into our house because she wanted it, not because I had left her homeless. I can't solve that for you, I said. I know. The words surprised both of us. On Wednesday, Daniel sent a calendar invitation titled Financial Reconciliation. Friday at 6, at the house. No mediator, no Marisol. We resolve our marriage privately. I declined it. He sent another. Mom will be at Marigold. You wanted privacy. I am offering it. I called him. What do you want? I asked. To stop this before we lose the house. Why would we lose the house? Because you pulled your income and started splitting bills like roommates. You emptied the joint account for the business. How much does Gather and Grain owe? We'll discuss it Friday. You can tell me now. You want documents, I'll have documents. I looked at Tessa's emails, the bank receipt, the canceled insurance notice, and the photograph of dinner waiting in my refrigerator. If your mother is there, I leave. She won't be. If you raise your voice, I leave. Claire, if you ask me to transfer money before showing me every account, I leave. He was quiet. Then he said, bring your key. After we hung up, I accepted the invitation. I printed every page and placed them in a black folder. On top, I put his refund request. Friday evening, my key turned easily in the lock. I had expected Daniel to change it, block it, or make me ring the bell at my own house. Instead, the door opened onto an entryway stripped of Evelyn's luggage. Her shoes were gone. So was the cardboard box. The smoked glass bowl remained on the table with Daniel's key and the copy he had made for her. The house smelled like lemon cleaner. Daniel sat at the dining table with his laptop, a legal pad, and 2 thick folders. He had made coffee. Mine waited in the blue mug I used every morning. Mom went back to Marigold, he said. I saw. She's angry with both of us. That sounds uncomfortable. He glanced at the black folder under my arm. You came prepared. So did you. I sat across from him but left the coffee untouched. He opened the first folder. Inside were Gather and Grain's bank statements, invoices, equipment lists, and contracts. He slid them toward me one at a time, keeping his fingertips on each page until mine touched it, as if we were exchanging evidence across a border. The business owed $37,000 to an event supplier, $9,000 on warehouse rent, and another $6,000 on a delivery truck. Its available cash was under $4,000. The $18,000 from our emergency account had covered payroll, 2 overdue payments, and a deposit on tables ordered for events that had not produced enough revenue. You said it was inventory timing, I said. It is. This shows losses for 7 months. We expanded too quickly. Who is we? My partner and me. Is he putting in more money? Daniel looked down at the legal pad. He doesn't have more. Does he own half? 60%. So you emptied our emergency account to protect your 40%. My 40% could become much more valuable. If the business stops losing money, it has bookings. Bookings aren't profit. I know that. You told me you didn't know how many tables you bought. I was angry. The answer is 48. His lips compressed. I read the next sheet. Gather and Grain had pledged most of its existing inventory against a business loan. If it missed the next payment, there would be very little left to sell. What was your plan? I asked. He turned his laptop toward me. A spreadsheet filled the screen. It was a bad spreadsheet. That should not have mattered, but it did. Totals were typed directly into cells instead of calculated. Dates used 3 different formats. A column called Claire Deposit began the following month and continued through the end of the year. My name had become a revenue stream. You restore your paycheck to the household account, Daniel said. Mom's refund covers the urgent supplier balance. Gather and Grain pays back the $18,000 after the fall events. We reduce personal spending for 6 months. What personal spending? Cleaning, restaurants, your conference in Seattle. My company pays for that. Then it won't affect you. And where does your mother live? He hesitated. Here, for now. So her refunded rent goes into your business. She moves into my office and I replace the emergency fund. It's not all on you. What are you giving up? I've put everything into this. That wasn't my question. He closed the laptop halfway. You always reduce things to columns. You brought me a spreadsheet with my name in a column. I brought you a solution. You brought me the plan you made before Sunday dinner. He leaned back. There it was again, that moment when his face went still because he was deciding which truth would cost him least. I knew you'd refuse to have Mom here, he said. So you made her apartment disappear. I created an option. You requested the rent back. Because paying $2,000 a month for her to sit alone in an apartment makes no sense when we have space. We discussed the space. You declared it off limits. I use it for work and she went through my files. She read 1 page. You told me you believe me about that. I believe she saw something. I don't believe it justifies treating her like an intruder. She entered like one. His palm struck the table, not hard, but the coffee trembled in both mugs. Do you know what it feels like to be caught between the 2 of you? He asked. Whatever I do, one of you decides I've betrayed her. You told each of us a different lie, because neither of you compromises. Your mother was willing to move into my house with money taken from her rent. I was expected to finance the business that received it. Where was your compromise? I was trying to protect everyone. The word caught me. Who did the accusation protect? He looked away. You could have said at dinner that you requested the refund, I continued. You could have said it the moment Tessa opened her laptop. You tried to close the screen, Daniel. Then, outside, you still told me there was context. There was. You stood in front of your mother and the property staff and said I withheld her rent. You demanded I apologize for something you did. I panicked. No, you planned the dinner. I planned to force a conversation. By humiliating me. By making you understand the consequences of refusing. The sentence remained between us. Daniel heard it. His eyes lowered, and for the first time since Sunday, he looked frightened rather than angry. I opened my black folder. On the table, I placed the refund request, his emails to Tessa, the bank transfer into 4409, the canceled insurance notice, and my receipt for half the premium. Beside them, I set a 1-page list of household expenses. I see 2 choices, I said. "We divide the house costs in writing while we prepare to sell, or we go to mediation and decide whether there is any marriage left to repair." He stared at the page. "Sell?" "Yes. This is our home. It's also the largest expense we share. You'd sell our house over one bad investment? This isn't about the investment." "Then what is it about?" "You decided my no was an obstacle to remove." He pushed back from the table. "Every marriage involves persuasion." "You didn't persuade me. You created a crisis, made your mother afraid, and accused me of causing it." "I made a mistake." "A mistake is sending the refund to the wrong account. You asked them not to contact me." He stood and walked toward the entryway. For a moment, I thought he was leaving. Instead, he picked up the smoked glass bowl with both hands and brought it to the table. "Do you remember buying this?" "Yes." "We had almost nothing. The roof leaked. The upstairs toilet ran all night. We ate takeout on the floor because the table hadn't arrived." "I remember. You said you wanted one place where the keys always went so neither of us would lose them." He set the bowl between us. Daniel's key and Evelyn's bright silver copy slid together with a soft scrape. "This is what marriage is, Claire. We built routines. We built a home. You don't throw that away because things got messy." I looked through the smoky spiral in the glass. Something pale showed beneath it. "Pick it up," I said. "What?" "The bowl." He lifted it again. A narrow paper receipt lay on the table, flattened where the bowl had rested. It was old enough that the edges had curled inward. I reached for it. Harris Hardware. One house key duplicate. The date was 2 days after Daniel had driven to Marigold, retrieved Evelyn's emergency copy, and dropped it into that bowl while telling me the problem was solved. Daniel saw the date. That could be for anything. "It says SC1 house key." "I've copied our keys before." "For whom?" He said nothing. I turned the receipt over. In Daniel's handwriting, lightly smeared, was Evelyn. He sat down. The current silver key had required another betrayal. The receipt proved the first one had not been an accident, a misunderstanding, or a frightened son responding badly to his mother's housing problem. Months before the refund, before the business emergency, before Sunday dinner, he had pretended to honor my boundary and replaced the access in secret. I took a photograph of the receipt and slid it into my folder. Daniel's voice was barely audible. "I didn't want her to feel unwelcome." "So you made sure I couldn't feel safe." "That's not fair." "No, it isn't." He put both hands around the glass bowl. "You're really leaving." "I already left." "I thought you'd cool down." "I did." That frightened him more. He looked at the spreadsheet, the folders, the coffee he had made the way I liked it. "If you walk away now, the business closes." That business existed for 11 months without my knowledge. I was building something for us. You built it in a room I wasn't allowed to enter, then sent me the bill. We'll lose money if it folds. You will lose the money you chose to put into it. Our emergency fund. I'll account for my share when we divide everything. You're talking like a stranger. I'm talking like someone whose words need to match the receipts. His face folded for a second. Not dramatically. He just looked tired and older than he had across the parking lot. "I love you," he said. I believed him. That was the hardest part. Daniel loved me as a person and relied on me as a system. Somewhere along the way, he had decided the system was proof of the person's love. If I stopped paying, arranging, forgiving, and absorbing, he experienced it as abandonment. "I love you too," I said, "but your love keeps requiring access I did not give." He looked down at the bowl. "Stay tonight." "No, just tonight. We don't have to decide anything." "You already made the decision I needed." I picked up my folder. He did not try to block the door. My key stayed in my pocket. Evelyn called the next morning and asked me to meet her at Marigold Court. She had returned to her apartment, but half her clothes remained folded in suitcases around the living room. The folder I had prepared for her sat open on the dining table. Colored tabs marked groceries, cleaning, utilities, transportation, and the pharmacy portal. "I found the password," she said. "Good. It was written exactly where you said it was." I resisted asking how many other places she had searched first. She poured coffee into 2 floral cups. When she set mine down, a fresh silver key lay in the saucer. "I won't be needing that," she said. I slipped it into my purse. Evelyn sat across from me. Without the soft voice and staged headache, she looked sharper but also smaller. "I didn't know about the business," she said, "or the refund request." "I know. But I knew he was pushing you." I waited. "He said if the rent became an issue, you would reconsider the guest suite. I understood that he wanted me to help make the situation feel urgent. You thought the rent issue was me." I let myself think that. Why? Because I wanted the room. Her honesty had no decoration. I respected it enough not to rescue her from it. "I like your house," she continued. "I like having someone in the next room. I like the idea that I could walk into the kitchen without planning a visit, and I believed that if Daniel wanted it, you would eventually make it work." I usually did. "Yes." She looked at the folder. "I can pay for the groceries," she said. "The cleaners can stop. When the lease ends, Tessa says a studio may be available. You'll need to ask her what the rent is." I already did. That surprised me. Evelyn pushed my cup closer. "I am sorry I helped him corner you." It was not an apology for everything. It did not turn her into a different woman. It was specific, which made it worth something. "Thank you," I said. She nodded once. "I'm still angry with you." I assumed. "You could have handled some of this privately." Sunday dinner was private until Daniel invited the property staff. Her mouth twitched. For 1 second, we nearly laughed. Then the second passed. Daniel refused to discuss selling for another 3 weeks. I paid my half of every house expense directly and sent him a ledger. He responded to each email with a paragraph about loyalty. I responded only when a number was wrong. Gather and Grain missed its supplier payment. Its remaining bookings could not cover the warehouse, the truck, and the inventory debt. Daniel asked me twice to make a short-term loan. The first request was angry. The second was almost humble. I said no both times. The business closed at the end of summer. Its chairs, arches, lanterns, and 48 new tables were sold to pay part of what it owed. The sale did not destroy Daniel's life. It simply failed to save him from the consequences he had tried to assign to me. By then, he had agreed to mediation. We sold the house because neither of us could comfortably carry it alone while dividing the debt. Evelyn moved into a studio at Marigold when her lease ended. She paid her own rent and complained to me once that the kitchen had only 2 drawers. I told her one was more than I had in my new place. She said that sounded inefficient. At the final walkthrough, Daniel and I stood in the empty entryway. The table was gone. A pale rectangle marked where it had protected the wall from sunlight. The smoked glass bowl sat alone on the floor. "You should take it," he said. I picked it up. He watched me turn it in my hands. I did love this house. So did I. That wasn't enough. No. He looked as if he wanted to argue, but there was nothing left in the rooms to carry the sound. In my apartment, I placed the bowl beside the front door. It looked larger with no other keys inside it. That evening, I came home carrying groceries, unlocked the door, and stepped into the quiet. I set down the bags and dropped my key into the smoked glass. The clear, solitary note traveled through every room. No one else had a copy.